My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 58 years old, a former high school principal who retired early to enjoy life with my second husband, Richard. Richard was 67, kind-hearted, wealthy from a lifetime building a small chain of hardware stores across 3 states. We married 5 years ago after both losing our first spouses. His only child from his first marriage was Brandon, 32, charming on the surface, ambitious underneath, and always short of money despite a decent job in real estate. From day one, Brandon never hid his resentment. He called me the gold digger behind my back, and sometimes to my face when Richard wasn't listening. Richard would laugh it off, saying, "He's just protective, Ellie. Give him time." Time never softened Brandon. Instead, it sharpened his envy every time Richard bought me jewelry, took me on cruises, or talked about updating the will to make sure Eleanor is comfortable if I go first. Then came the symptoms. It started small. Richard complained of stomach cramps, nausea, fatigue. Doctors ran tests, ulcers, they said. Medication changed. Symptoms worsened. Jaundice appeared. His skin turned yellow, eyes like old parchment. Liver failure, the specialists finally declared. They asked about toxins, heavy metals, anything unusual. Richard shook his head weakly. Nothing, just getting old, I guess. I noticed Brandon visiting more often. He brought soup, sat by the bed holding his father's hand, spoke softly about family sticking together. But I saw the glint in his eyes when the doctor mentioned possibly 6 months, maybe less. I also noticed the soup bowls he left half-finished on the counter, always the same brand, always prepared by him personally. It started small. Richard complained of stomach cramps, nausea, fatigue. Doctors ran tests, ulcers, they said. Medication changed. Symptoms worsened. Jaundice appeared. His skin turned yellow, eyes like old parchment. Liver failure, the specialists finally declared. They asked about toxins, heavy metals, anything unusual. Richard shook his head weakly. Nothing, just getting old, I guess. I noticed Brandon visiting more often. He brought soup, sat by the bed holding his father's hand, spoke softly about family sticking together. But I saw the glint in his eyes when the doctor mentioned possibly 6 months, maybe less. I also noticed the soup bowls he left half-finished on the counter, always the same brand, always prepared by him personally. My hand shook so badly I dropped the phone. I didn't confront Brandon. Not yet. Instead, I installed hidden cameras in the kitchen and living room, for security while Richard's in and out of hospital, I told everyone. Brandon rolled his eyes but said nothing. 3 days before I collapsed myself, I made my move. I printed the lab report, the photos of the bottle, timestamps of Brandon preparing food. I added bank statements showing him transferring large sums from Richard's business account to his personal one, money labeled as advances but never repaid. I packaged everything in a manila envelope addressed to Detective Maria Valdez at the County Police Department's Major Crimes Unit. No return address. I drove to a different town, wore gloves, used a public mailbox. That same evening, feeling dizzy and nauseous, I told Richard the first was going to lie down. I never woke up feeling normal again. When I opened my eyes in the hospital, monitors beeping, for in my arm, the doctor's face was grave. "Mrs. Hayes, your liver enzymes are critically elevated. We found traces of the same compound we saw in your husband, arsenic. You've been exposed too." Brandon was sitting in the chair beside my bed, holding a bouquet of lilies like a grieving son. He leaned close, voice low and mocking. "You won't survive the week, you know. Then everything's mine. The stores, the house, the accounts. Dad should have listened when I told him you were trouble." He laughed, a short, cruel sound. I closed my eyes, pretending to drift off. Inside, rage burned hotter than the poison in my veins. He had no idea the envelope had already landed on Detective Valdez's desk 3 days earlier. But the nightmare was only beginning. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and dying flowers. Brandon left after his little victory speech, promising to check on Dad later. I waited until the nurse changed shifts, then reached for my phone under the pillow. My fingers trembled. Arsenic makes everything feel heavy, distant, but I managed to open the hidden camera app. The feeds were live. Kitchen camera, Brandon entering our house with his key. He went straight to the cabinet, pulled out the same unlabeled bottle, added drops to a fresh pot of soup he was making for Richard. He hummed while stirring. Humming, like it was nothing. Living room camera, him sitting beside Richard's hospital bed at home. They discharged Richard temporarily to make him comfortable. Brandon speaking softly, "Don't worry, Dad. I've got everything under control. She won't be around much longer to spend your money." I saved every clip. Timestamped. Crystal clear. My phone buzzed, unknown number. I answered weakly. "Mrs. Hayes? Detective Valdez. I received your package. We're taking this very seriously. Do not confront him. Do not eat or drink anything he prepares. We're building a case, but we need more time. Stay safe." I whispered, "He just poisoned another batch. I have video." A pause. "Send it. Encrypted. Now." I did. 10 minutes later she called back. "We have enough for a search warrant on his apartment and vehicle. But your husband, we need to move fast. If Brandon suspects anything, he may accelerate." That night they moved Richard back to the hospital under emergency protocols. Relapse, the doctors said publicly. Privately, they started chelation therapy, the antidote for arsenic. Richard was confused, weak, but alive. Brandon arrived the next morning looking irritated. "Why is Dad back here?" He was fine at home. I lay still, eyes half closed, listening. The doctor, pre-warned by Valdez, answered calmly, "We need to monitor him closely. Toxin levels spiked unexpectedly." Brandon's face flickered, panic, then control. "Must be stress." He left to get coffee. I knew he was going to destroy evidence. But Detective Valdez was faster. 2 hours later, plainclothes officers arrived at our house with the warrant. They found the bottle, still in the cabinet, residue in multiple soup containers, gloves in Brandon's car trunk with arsenic traces, and, most damning, his laptop open to searches, undetectable arsenic dosage, how long until liver failure, inheritance laws when both spouses die. They arrested him quietly in the hospital parking lot as he returned with coffee. He didn't resist at first. Then he saw me being wheeled past in a chair for a scan, alive, eyes open, staring straight at him. His face crumpled. You bitch. You were supposed to die first." I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The detective later told me Brandon lawyered up immediately, claiming the bottle was rat poison for the garage and the searches were for a true crime podcast he was planning. But the videos didn't lie. And neither did the bank records showing he'd already contacted a probate attorney to prepare emergency filings in case both Richard and Eleanor pass unexpectedly close together. That night, Richard woke enough to hold my hand. Tears in his eyes. "Ellie, did he?" I nodded. He closed his eyes. "I should have seen it. I'm so sorry." I squeezed his hand. "We're both still here, that's what matters." But deep down I knew the battle wasn't over. Brandon's lawyer was aggressive, well-paid, and already spinning a narrative. Eleanor manipulated Richard, poisoned him herself to frame the son and steal everything. The media started sniffing around. Headlines: "Wealthy family poison mystery, wife or son?" I had evidence. But would a jury believe a dying woman over a grieving son? The answer came sooner than expected. 6 months later. Both Richard and I had survived, barely. Chelation saved us, but the damage was permanent. Richard's liver function would never fully recover. Mine was scarred but stable. We sold the hardware chain, moved to a quiet beach house, hired round-the-clock security. Brandon's trial was the biggest story in 3 counties. Opening day, the courtroom was packed. Cameras allowed in select areas. Brandon sat in a suit, looking polished and remorseful. His lawyer, Victor Lang, was a shark in pinstripes, famous for getting guilty clients off on technicalities. The prosecutor presented our evidence methodically: videos, lab reports, search history, financial trails. Then Lang stood. "Your Honor, the defense calls Eleanor Hayes." I walked to the stand on shaky legs. Brandon smirked as I swore in. Lang began softly. "Mrs. Hayes, you married Richard only 5 years ago. Correct?" "Yes." "And before that, you had no significant assets?" "I was a teacher. Comfortable, but not wealthy." "So you benefited enormously from this marriage?" "I loved Richard. The money was secondary." He smiled. "Convenient. Now, these videos you claim show my client poisoning food. Were they professionally installed?" "No. I did it myself after suspecting him." "With whose help?" "Myself." He paced. "So a 58-year-old woman with no tech background secretly installed multiple high-quality hidden cameras? And they captured perfect angles?" "They were off-the-shelf nanny cams. Easy to set up." He showed stills. "Notice how the timestamps jump in some clips. Gaps. Perhaps edited?" The prosecutor objected. Sustained. But the seed was planted. Then the bombshell. "Your Honor, the defense calls Dr. Leonard Crane, forensic video analyst." A gray-haired man took the stand. He testified the videos showed signs of digital manipulation, frame rate inconsistencies, lighting anomalies. My stomach dropped. I hadn't edited anything. But someone had. Lang turned to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, Eleanor Hayes had motive, opportunity, and means to frame Brandon. She controlled the house cameras. She could have doctored footage after the fact to save herself when her own poisoning attempt backfired." Gasps in the gallery. I felt the room tilt. Richard, watching from the front row, too weak to stand long, looked devastated. The judge called recess. In the hallway, Detective Valdez pulled me aside. "We're tracing the analyst. He's expensive, someone paid him a lot. We think Brandon's lawyer isn't the only one pulling strings." That night I couldn't sleep. I reviewed every file on my laptop. Then I saw it, a small metadata tag on one video file. Someone had accessed it remotely 3 weeks earlier. IP traced to a coffee shop near Brandon's apartment. I called Valdez at 2 a.m. They hacked my cloud backup. That's how they manipulated copies. She went silent. "Stay put. We're raiding his tech guy tomorrow." The next morning, police arrested a freelance hacker. Brandon had paid $15,000 to clean up the footage and plant inconsistencies. The hacker flipped within hours, full confession, emails, payment records. When the trial resumed, the prosecutor recalled me. I told the full story again, this time with the hacking proof. Lang's face went pale. The jury deliberated 3 days. Guilty. On all counts, 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy, fraud. Sentencing, 35 years, no parole for 28. Brandon was led away in cuffs, screaming, "She set me up. She's the poisoner." No one believed him anymore. Richard and I walked out of court into sunlight. He whispered, "I almost lost you because I refused to see the truth." I kissed his cheek. We both almost lost everything. But we didn't. But peace was short-lived. A letter arrived at the beach house 2 weeks later. From Brandon. "I'm not done. You think prison stops me? Watch your back." The letter was typed, no fingerprints, postmarked from a neighboring state. Inside, a single photo of our new beach house taken from the bluff behind it. No note. Just the picture. I called Detective Valdez immediately. "We're on it. He's allowed limited calls and mail. We're checking visitors, associates." Richard wanted to hire private security again. I agreed. Weeks passed. Nothing. Then the phone call started, late at night, breathing only. I changed numbers. They found the new one. One night the voice finally spoke. Distorted. You took everything. I'll take what's left. Click. Valdez traced it to a burner phone bought with cash in Atlanta. Then came the break-in attempt. Our security cameras caught a masked figure trying the back door at 3 a.m. He fled when the alarm sounded. DNA on the doorknob, not Brandon's. A match to a parolee named Travis Klein, known associate of Brandon from years ago, did time for burglary. Klein was arrested 2 days later. He confessed fast. Brandon paid me through a friend. Said if I scared you enough, he'd get a new trial, claim harassment from you. But there was more. Klein handed over a flash drive. On it, recordings of Brandon's prison calls. In one, he spoke to an unknown man. Make sure they never feel safe. I want her looking over her shoulder forever. And if she cracks, finish it. The voice on the other end, for the right price. We never found who the voice was. But the threat was real. Richard's health declined again, stress, doctors said. He begged me to move abroad, disappear. I refused. I'm done running from him. Instead, I did something Brandon never expected. I started a foundation. The Hayes Family Trust for poisoning victims, counseling, medical support, advocacy. I spoke at conferences, shared our story, names changed for safety, lobbied for stricter arsenic controls and better digital evidence laws. Every speech ended the same: my stepson thought money was worth more than life. He was wrong. Brandon watched from prison. Clips went viral inside. Inmates started calling him the failed poisoner. His parole hearings? Denied. Repeatedly. One day Valdez called with news. Brandon tried to hire another hit from inside. The inmate he approached was an undercover informant. We have it all on tape. Additional charges, solicitation of murder. Another 15 years added. He'll die in prison. Richard passed peacefully last spring, holding my hand, whispering, "You saved us both." I scattered his ashes on our beach at sunrise. Now I live alone in the house, but not lonely. Grandchildren, from Richard's sister, visit. The foundation keeps me busy. And every year on the anniversary of the arrest, I open a bottle of good wine, sit on the porch, and toast quietly. To surviving. Years later. I'm 68 now. The beach house is quieter. The foundation has helped hundreds of families. Brandon's name is rarely mentioned except in legal textbooks about failed attempts to manipulate digital evidence. Then one morning, a letter arrived, no stamp, hand-delivered somehow past security. Brandon's handwriting. Dear Eleanor, I'm dying. Liver cancer. Same poison I used on you both, ironic, isn't it? The doctors say months, maybe less. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know, I hated you because Dad loved you more than he ever loved me or Mom. I thought if you were gone, I'd finally be enough. I was wrong. I destroyed the only family I had. If you can find it in you, visit me once. Just once. Let me say goodbye. Brandon. I stared at the paper for hours. Richard would have said no. He doesn't deserve your peace. But Richard was gone. This was my choice. I went. The prison infirmary smelled like disinfectant and regret. Brandon lay in a bed, thin, jaundiced, tubes everywhere. He looked up when I entered, tears immediately. You came. I sat, said nothing. He spoke for 20 minutes, rambling apologies, excuses, regrets. Most sounded rehearsed. Some felt real. When he finished, I stood. I'm not here to forgive you. I'm here to see that you're no longer a threat. And to tell you this, I won. Not because you lost. Because I chose to live. Fully. Joyfully. Despite you. I turned to leave. Wait, he whispered. The house, the money, Give it to charity. All of it. My share. I don't want it. I paused at the door. I already did. Years ago. I walked out without looking back. He died 3 weeks later. No funeral attended by family. I didn't go. Instead, I planted a lavender bush in the garden, Richard's favorite scent. Every morning I water it, smell the blooms, and remember, trust must be earned. Love must be protected. And sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't punishment. It's living well after they tried to destroy you. The end.